It's time for another Dice Tower review with Zee Garcia.
Hey everybody, today I am taking a look at a small card game called I Go. And I Go here is a simple Rummy-style game in which you are trying to line up your numbers, line up your colors just right, go out and see if you can score the fewest penalty points so you can ultimately win the game. Let me give you an overview real quick of what the game looks like, how it plays, and then I'll tell you if I think this is a good one. Here we go. So here's what the game looks like, set up and ready to begin. Each player is given 12 cards from the deck of cards there, which come in 10 colors if I'm not mistaken. We're going to set up a display here, which is made up of a number of cards based on the number of players. In this case, I have 3 players. And then the deck, well, shuffled here, and the top card flipped over to begin the discard pile. And you're ready to begin. Objective of the game, be the first player to get to 4 victory points, which you are going to get by calling out I Go, which means it triggers the end of that hand. You are going to check some penalty points in your hand, and if you have the fewest penalty points, you get that victory point. Shuffle up, play again until someone has 4, okay? So let me show you how a round goes. I have here my 12 cards, and on my turn, I do 2 things, possibly a third. First thing I do is I draw a card. I draw either the top discard, top card from the deck, or the fully exposed card down here on the display, revealing the card that is below that, and I'll explain why that's very important in just a minute. Second thing I do is I then discard a card, so I'm always back down to 12 cards in my hand. And then the final thing I may do is call I Go, which means hands over, let's compare and see if I actually scored my victory point, okay? So, how do we score victory points and what is the whole penalty point deal about? Here's how this is going to work out. For that, let's jump ahead a little bit in the game, and let's say that the players have been drawing and discarding, and some of these cards have now gone away, and we are there, okay? And so this is what's left. I'm going to remove this hand, and I'm going to say this is my hand, and on my turn, I am going to draw a card, this card. I'm going to put that in my hand. I'm going to discard a card. I'm going to discard this one. And I'm going to call out I Go, game's over. Or the round is over, rather. So first thing I do is I can get rid of all the cards in my hand which have the color that is showing on the display here. So these 3 cards, I can just get rid of those. They don't count against me. Next thing I can do is I can make a set. A set is at most 2 colors with numbers that do not repeat. So I can do this 2, this 3, this 4, this 5, 8, 11. That's all fine. So that is my set. And now what I'm left with, those are my penalty points. In this case, I have 5 penalty points. All right. If I have the fewest penalty points, once every other player does what I just did, I get my victory point, and I'm closer to winning. However, if I'm the one who calls out I Go, every other player has one other little thing they can do before they add up their penalty points, and that is if they have any cards that can fit into this set that I've played and don't repeat a number that's there, obviously, but it has to be one of those 2 colors, then they can get rid of that card and put it in my set and have fewer penalty points. That's pretty much it. There's a couple of exceptions to the rules that are pretty straightforward. One of them is you can get a perfect I Go, which means that when you call I Go, you have no penalty points whatsoever, so a perfect hand, then you win the game immediately. Game's over, boom, you win. Also, if a player ever takes the last card of the display, so these are all gone, and someone takes the last card from the display here, the hand is nullified, no one scores anything. And that's pretty much the basics of I Go. Try to get to 4 points first, and you're the winner. So there you have it. That is I Go. Let me get a couple of negatives out of the way first before I tell you how I feel about the game, which is positive. The construction is certainly leaves something to be desired. I don't like this kind of packaging. It's very flimsy. Mine's actually breaking here in the bag. You have to split the deck and put it back in here. It's got that tab. It's very mass market. Cards, same thing. They're kind of flimsy. Not so great in the production department. The look of the cards, though, I do think that they did a nice job with that. I like that the colors are vibrant, and they do have an index that makes it colorblind friendly. So I like that. Just the production is not stellar. The gameplay itself I enjoy. I think it's a nice Rummy-esque kind of card game. Something that gives you just enough of a twist to make it new and interesting, but familiar enough where I find this game to be a comforting experience. I think this is the kind of game that you could play with mom and pop, you could play with the grandparents, and everybody could pick up on it, have a good time playing it. I enjoy it. I would recommend it, certainly for those styles of settings. So there you go. Perhaps not a very flashy game, not something that is going to create any waves maybe, but one I find very soothing and very pleasant, and so it gets my recommendation. Check this one out.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.